Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, October 24th. Welcome to the Inside Edge. So, we're putting the finishing touches on the 2025 Voters Guide right now. And one thing that struck me as we've written it is the degree to which New Jersey's 40 state assembly races and one state Senate race have sort of faded into the background this election cycle. I think part of that is the inevitable result of there being an incredibly expensive and hotly contested governor's race on the ballot that has sort of eaten up all of the available oxygen of New Jersey politics. I think part of it is that, with the exception of in the 35th district, the state Senate isn't on the ballot this year, and senators tend to be sort of the more name brand, well-known politicians in their districts, whereas assembly races are a bit harder to follow, a little bit more anonymous. But I also think part of the reason why the race for legislature has slipped into the background is that neither party is really acting like they expect to make a huge number of gains or losses. Republicans are definitely hoping to pick up the 3rd district. That's the Steve Sweeney, then Ed Durr, then John Berzicelli district. Democrats have hopes of finally flipping the 21st district. That's John Bramnick's seat. And both parties are really trying to flip the other seat in the 8th district, which is one of 2 districts in the state in 2023 that split its ticket. You've got one Democratic Assemblywoman, Andrea Katz, one Republican Assemblyman, Mike Teresi. But beyond that, I think the parties see other districts as potentially competitive, but they would be surprised if any of them flipped. But I want to bring up the possibility that if the governor's race goes in a different direction than we're expecting, that things on the assembly front might change. We're kind of basing a lot of the way that we're looking at these assembly races around the idea that the polls are going to be approximately correct. Mikey Sherrill is going to win the governor's race by a modest but not huge margin, maybe 4 points, 6 points, something like that. But let's say Jack Ciattarelli keeps it incredibly close or even flips the governor's office. That would obviously be a huge win for Republicans in and of itself, but it would also almost certainly mean that Republicans make some interesting gains in the legislature. Because that's just how gubernatorial coattails work. When the top of the ticket is doing well, that probably means they're doing well in some key districts, and some Democratic incumbents might lose. I mean, I'm looking at the 4th district in South Jersey. I'm looking at the 11th district in Monmouth County. I'm looking at the 36th and 38th districts in Bergen County. The 11th district voted for Ciattarelli in 2021. The 36th district and 38th district voted for Donald Trump in 2024. They've all got strong Democratic incumbents running, but if the headwinds at the top of the ticket get too intense, then there may be nothing Democrats can do. And conversely, if Mikey Sherrill ends up winning by a really strong margin, say 10 points or more, then a lot of Republican districts that Republicans feel relatively confident about could come online. The 2nd district in Atlantic County, the 25th district in Morris County, the 39th district in Bergen County. Again, all districts where Republican incumbents can reasonably expect to outrun Ciattarelli. But if Ciattarelli's numbers are sinking in these districts, which might happen if Sherrill's winning by a lot, then they could be in really serious trouble. Coattails are a thing that parties know to account for. You saw that in Gloucester County, where the county clerk designed a ballot that seems deliberately designed to muffle the Ciattarelli coattails by not having a county line where people can just vote straight down the line for Republicans. Instead, they have to choose and think about each individual race separately. And it's just, this is something that we as election observers have to keep an eye out for. I think in 2021, people were obviously surprised that Ciattarelli came so close to winning, but they were also surprised at how many gains Republicans made in the legislature. They flipped some seats no one thought they would flip. They easily won the seats that everybody knew to be competitive. But maybe that shouldn't have been so surprising, right? If the top of the ticket is doing one thing, then you can expect the lower down the ticket to do something similar. So as we look at the race for the assembly this year, we can have sort of a reasonable band of expectations about what it might look like. And that reasonable band probably doesn't include a ton of gains or losses in any direction. But if the governor's race starts moving in a direction we don't expect, then all bets are kind of off. So just keep that uncertainty in mind when checking out the assembly results on election night. So that's all I've got. Have a great weekend.